Odie Hawkins, another moment in time.
Another moment in time.
But fused.
Okay, but we talked about having like a fusion of the Monday and Tuesday nights rolled into just Monday night. So the short story and the moment in time will be fused together, and that's what I'm doing. I want to read a short story, very short story, but I think I need to do a little subtext before I get into the story.
Sounds good.
And it goes a little bit like this. In 1992, right after the attempted murder of Rodney King by the LAPD, I'm not going to say that that was the greatest catalyst, but I've been planning to go to Africa for a long time. And I'd saved about, I don't know, $50 or so. I thought that would be enough to sustain me for at least a year.
Plus a round trip ticket.
Yeah,
right, okay.
plus a round trip ticket.
Okay.
I went and wound up living in the home of some African Americans who were some very not nice people, and I always explained to them whenever I talked to them that I would say that whenever I mentioned their names. I'm not going to mention their names, but I had a period of time in their home. During the course of that time, within the first 3 months, I wound up writing some episodes of a show called The Inspector by the Arco. I also directed a few of the shows. The producer was a marvelous man, still is, always will be, named Kojo Yanka. At the time, he was the director of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. I hope I got that right. And he gave me the opportunity to do that, and that was the beginning of a career as a film person, a television person in Ghana. Also, at the same time, met a marvelous sister named Susan Amagashi, who is responsible for creating the first Montessori school in West Africa. I don't know about the other parts, but she did it in Ghana, West Africa. And
what was the name of the school?
Busy Bees. It was called the Busy Bees.
What a lovely name.
Montessori school, and it was busy.
I bet.
I was also making an effort to go to school myself because I wanted to learn one of the major languages in Ghana, which is Ga.
At the time.
And the other one is Tree, and then you have Nzema and Adangme and a whole collection of names. In a small country, I don't know, I can't remember the number of dialects and languages, but anyway, I was living in Accra, and Accra is Ga, so I decided to try to learn Ga. Here's the way I did it. One day, walking from one place to another in Accra, I heard the familiar sounds of children reciting something. So, I'm interested in education. I peeked in, and the professor, very dark-skinned man named Schwerner, I don't know where that came from, but he had a German name. Anyway, I asked him if, I could get into class and maybe learn a little Ga. At the time, they were learning, I guess you call it a poem, called the Homowah. Homowah is kind of difficult to explain. It's not Thanksgiving, but the legend goes that at one point in time, the Ga people had come from the northeast down into West Africa, and they had suffered many privations. But when they got to the coast, fish were jumping out of the water, coconut was dropping off the trees, so they felt that they had been saved. And so, consequently, they could Homowah, they could hoot at hunger. They could make fun of hunger because now they had plenty. And in the section of Ghana I was living in, Osu, you could have a celebration of that happening at different points in time, points in time.
Mm.
They might celebrate it in Tishinungwa on the 5th of September, whenever it was, and then come down to the other part. Osu might be the 8th of September and so forth.
Mm.
But anyway, you could do this. You
So
could
it's
go into
usually in
some-
like September?
I don't know if it's September. I may have gotten the month wrong.
Okay.
But for whatever month it was,
Mm.
it was different days of that particular month.
Okay.
Ice water, so great.
Mm.
And the great thing about it is that if you learn this particular recitation, you could go to somebody's house, to the doorway of a stranger's house, and recite this.
Mm-hmm.
And you would be invited in to eat the most delicious food.
Mm.
They had a pink flower that they only use at that particular time of year. I'm going to pronounce this, but it may be wrong. Pekpele.
Okay.
K-P-E-P. Pekpele.
Okay.
That's as close as I can come.
Mm-hmm.
Which might also stand true for this particular recitation I'm going to do. While I was in this class with the kids, I have to say that they must have had the most fun, and I will be always remembered as the person who came to their class and caused them to have so much fun. Because when I got ready to recite anything, the class completely became silent. And I'm asking Mr. Sherner, why are they quiet? I said, they are listening to you and they enjoy you so much. Yes. Okay, so if I were in Accra at this point in time, and it would be the season of Homowah, I'm going to ask you to act as the chorus for this.
Yes.
And the chorus is Yao.
Gotcha. Yow.
Yao, which means yeah. It almost sounds like yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, point
So-
it out for me. And those who are listening or watching the video, you can do yow too. Just,
If you want to get that deep into it.
yes.
Okay, here goes. I'm at the door of the house. I want to go in and eat this wonderful fish and peanut sauce that they have and everything. So I
Tilapia.
start off with Nawala,
Yow.
Afinak Bewa,
Yow.
Waye Panya Anina Wa,
Yow.
Waye Bo, Waye
Yow.
Biena,
Yow.
Wafe Mumo,
Yow.
Wase Akbar Beni Wastrashi,
Yow.
Alante Dinko Akafo Watan,
Yow.
Na Nyase Oiwala no.
Yow.
Okay, let me put it in English for context more.
And then I'll say yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna read it in the God first and then in English.
Okay.
So, Nawala,
Yow.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nawala,
Yeah.
long life to you,
Yeah.
Afi na akbenwa.
Yow.
I wish that this year would pass with no problems.
Yeah.
Panya anina wa,
Yow.
80 years should come and greet you.
Yeah.
Waye bo, waye biena.
Yow.
We hope that the rainy season will bring us plenty.
Yeah.
Wafi mumo, we want to grow.
Yow. And yeah.
Y'all, yeah. Wase akbar beni watrashi.
Yow.
We hope to be alive next year.
Yeah.
Alante dinko akafo watan.
Yow.
We hope no bad luck will cross your path.
Yeah.
Na nyese oiwala don.
Yow.
We give thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Okay, Kojo Yanka, sir, when you hear me make an effort, I know your first language was tree, but you speak the Ga, So when you hear this, don't think that I was simply being disrespectful. I was being adventurous.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Yes.
Here's yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, this story. This is one of those stories that happened, and at one point in time, I wish that I had not been a witness to it happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it has taken me years to write about it. It's almost like a case of post-traumatic stress disorder or something.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't I just couldn't write it.
Mm.
But I sat down the other day and it came out. And so here's what it is. I've dedicated it to my friends, to our friends, Susan Amagashi, and Kojo Yanka.
I see.
I call the story The Bravest Man I Ever Saw.
Mm.
One of the things I loved about living in Accra, Ghana, West Africa, from May 1992 to May 1995 had to do with how easy it was to walk from place to place. I hopped in out of taxis and churchos too. Churcho is VW bus.
Mm.
I hopped in out of taxis and churchos too, sharing the space with 12 or maybe 18 other people if they could be bundled into the VW wagon. But more often than not, I walked. Walking gave me the opportunity to talk with ladies carrying mountains of stuff on their heads, get an aromatic introduction to exotic zones, feel that I was more than a visitor. One of my favorite walks was to go south on Labadi Road to Teshinungba, a nice little hike of about 5 miles. I usually made my trip as the equatorial sun was setting behind the horizon to my right. It always made me think of a huge yellow lollipop being swallowed by the ocean.
Mm.
Midway to my destination in Teshinungwa, I had to cross a bridge that reminded me of Venice, California. On the right side of the bridge, going south, was the great Atlantic Ocean, holding residuals of my DNA memory of being taken into the unknown, into slavery. On the left side of the bridge, there was this small lagoon of seawater. It's fed by an inlet that became a shallow mud hole at low tide. I must have tripped back and forth over the bridge a couple of times before I found myself walking across at just the right low tidal time. It was the first time I'd ever seen dozens of people lined up on the bridge, staring at something in the low tide lagoon. I eased into a vacant spot. It took me a few beats to understand what the people were staring at, what I was seeing. A short, dark-skinned man, all Africans are not ebony colored, was down there in the mud of the low tide lagoon, catching nice-sized tilapia with his bare hands. He had a large woven basket with 2 fish that had been left by the tide. The man was taking very slow, heartbreaking steps deeper into the lagoon. Like everyone else watching him, I could feel the mud sucking his legs down. We could feel his efforts to lift his legs, to move one tortuous step after another. He was after the huge fish flopping in the mud about a yard in front of him. I was so glad he had his back to us. I didn't want to see his desperation, the agony of his expression. If he fell forward, backwards, or sideways, he would be suffocated, drowned in the mud. He seemed to be thinking for a few seconds, causing some of us to let out a collective moan. The large woman to my left started crying. Huge tears rolled over her full cheeks. 3 persons to my right, a man turned away from the sight of the struggle to vomit. It seems I could actually hear the collective thumping of our hearts. He made it to the huge fish, expertly grabbed it with both hands, held it up to his mouth, and bit it on the back of the neck. I guess he killed it with his bite. He carefully placed the fish in the basket that he drug along behind him, one sucking step after another. It was really hard to look at his face. He was so tired, so tired, so far away from the more solid ground. There were moments when he simply stood in place, seeming to be frozen in the mud. And then he would ooze forward a couple more bitter steps. We traded looks at each other on the bridge. What could we do to help him survive, to bring in his catch? Nothing. We couldn't do anything but watch this small man struggle to survive. The large woman to my left spoke to me in English without taking her eyes off the man in the mud. He is only trying to bring chop for his family. The sun had lollipopped down, but the darkness was suddenly lit up by people shining torches in front of the man, people flashing lighters. Some people had candles. And then the singing started. I don't know who started it, but the man in the mud flashed a big smile. I didn't know enough Tree, Gal, or Eddie, still don't, to recognize what people were singing, but it was holy. I could feel that. I couldn't resist asking the lady next to me, Christian hymn? Jesus? She had stopped crying and started clapping. She said very carefully, "This is no Christian song, no Jesus song. This is Dobre Wo, before Christian Jesus." I couldn't sing the Eve song, but I could clap. For about 2 hours, until the mud fisherman made it to solid ground. And one of the Ghanaians, people with the greatest sense of humor in the world, called out, "So, what are you going to tell your wife?"
Wow.
Since that day, since that time,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a moment, I haven't had a day in my life when I didn't think about what it felt like for that man to pull his, he could have been in quicksand because that's what the mud bottom was of this little lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, I guess he was, as he made one step forward, he was coming up to a more solid ground, but it had to be slow, and he was patient,
Yes.
and it opened up doors in my head about not surrendering, not giving up. You know, I think, I have to add, from time to time, I ran into, not all of them, but those people that we shared that time.
That moment in time?
This lady who was next to me, I think lived in Osu, but I saw her fairly often. And, you know, she was like, hello, hello, you know. It was like, you know, we shared something one evening. We saw
You did.
A man, you know, risking his life, as she said, to bring chop for his family, to bring food for his family. The man who vomited, you know, I saw him and he was always looked a little embarrassed because as a man he was not supposed to
Could not handle
get into that. But you know, it was stomach churning.
Right.
You know, you knew that it was very likely that you would see a human being die. You know, everybody thought of different things. I was thinking, you know, hey, let's all take off our belts and so forth. But you couldn't take off your belt and string them together and guarantee, first of all, whoever would have to go in and you know, and nobody was willing to wrench this, that. I mean, just like one little conundrum at a time. And then the singing started.
Yeah.
And if there was ever a time when you could feel that a spiritual force,
Collective, yes, a collective.
yeah, a collective spiritual force was pulling. I don't know where the flashlights came from, or people with lighters and stuff, or what they were supposed to do, but it worked. And when he smiled at us, I mean, it was like, oh my God. You know, it makes me feel like crying now because he was saved.
Yes.
And if you have something like that happen in front of you, it's hard to go around, you know, looking at how well people live and what is going on.
Well, you know, in these times, in COVID times, and storms like Ida and Fred and former times of Katrina, we often forget how quickly things can turn upside down.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this is our moment in time.
Yes.
You know, when you, it's hard to believe that you could have people who would be witnesses on television of something that's happening that is so incredibly real. I mean, 600 and some thousand people in the country have died, and at the same time, you have people who are willing to shout and scream, it didn't happen.
Right.
Or
don't give the possibilities of prevention a chance. Okay,
why is that
it's
so?
called
Why
when you
is
got.
that?
I don't know. Well, you know, I mean, why is it that you take a child out to the beach and they walk off into the ocean? You know, it's mankind, humanity, this planet
Well, they might be drawn by forces beyond our comprehension.
This is true, but this planet is a puzzlement. It certainly is a puzzle.
I have a suspicion that babies are not really, you know, I've seen them, I've watched these little creatures, I've seen them. You know what? I didn't see it personally, but a baby fell out of the third floor window in Chicago into a snowbank. He climbed up, he whatever, climbed up in a window and tumbled out and happened to fall into a snowbank. Somebody came by, happened to pull the baby out, and they took a picture of him just laughing and giggling.
Relax.
You know, I mean, we've seen that when they topple away, and you ask yourself, what would happen if you just let them keep on going? They would keep on going. They might be back on their way to, you know,
they are remarkable.
where they came from.
They are remarkable.
Yeah.
And, you know, consequently, whenever I see homeless people or people who have given up hope, I think they once were a baby.
No, yeah. Look, check out the babies.
They once were a baby.
If anyone has to have hope, it has to be them who say, I don't know where I'm going, but
Going to go there.
I'm on my way.
Want to follow me?
And we do. We run behind them like little fools. And grab them up before they get there.
Yes.
And then ask them, where are you going? And if they turned around to you, say, to Mars, you feel surprised? Jupiter? Or Saturn?
Anything's possible. Anyway, well, thank you for reading.
Well, I have to say that you placed this on my Facebook, and the reaction was so warm and cordial that we felt it would be worthwhile to.
Well, yeah, you said to go ahead and put it on your Facebook, and so like you said, it was a nice, a very lovely response. Okay.
Really appreciate that.
Okay. And so all those who chimed in on Facebook, all those who listen or watch our channel, appreciate you. Stay up. Bright moments. And itness.
This is for you, Alfred. Itness.